Okay, Chair, we're all set.
Okay, thank you. Aloha, everybody. The online meeting of the Leeward Planning Commission will now come to order. It's Thursday, March 17th, 2022. Happy St. Patrick's Day. The time is 9:34. Based on Act 220, Session Laws of Hawaii 2021, which amended the Sunshine Law to allow meetings to be remotely conducted online, effective January 1st, 2022, we're holding this meeting online. Further, pursuant to the Governor's Emergency Proclamation related to COVID-19, dated January 26, 2022, the requirement to have at least one in-person meeting location has been suspended through March 25th, 2022. Therefore, no in-person meeting location will be provided for this meeting. Public can observe this meeting on YouTube live stream by following the link provided in the county website calendar, or by using the URL advertised on the agenda. The video recording will be available on the same YouTube channel. The minutes and transcripts will also be posted to the county website at a later date. I'd like to remind all participants the protocol for the meeting. Please silence your phones and any other devices near you. Only one person may speak at a time, so raise your hands to be recognized by the chair before you speak. Please speak directly into your microphone and keep your microphone muted when you're not speaking. If you talk over each other or if your microphones pick up noise, the dialogue can't be transcribed. Thank you for your cooperation. Introductions of my fellow commissioners. When you're called, please state whether or not you have anybody in your location with you. It's not required to disclose their names or where you are. Vice Chair Barbara DeFranco.
No one is here. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm on my phone. This is really difficult for me to do this today. I'm still trying to get on my computer.
Okay. Commissioner CJ Kanuha.
Aloha kakahi kakako. Yeah, I'm in my office by myself.
Okay, right on. Commissioner Mahina Paishan-Duarte.
Good morning, everyone. I am here alone by myself.
Commissioner Faye Yates is excused today. And I'm chairperson, Mike Vitusek, and I'm also alone. We meet the quorum required to hold this meeting. I'd like to remind the commissioners that we have to have at least 4 commissioners visible on the screen throughout the meeting. If fewer than 4 commissioners are visible, we'll have to take a recess. And at that point, we'll have to wait until 4 come back on. We also have our ex officio member, Bryce Harada, representing the Department of Public Works. I see Bryce's screen there now, but he's going to be joining us for the second agenda item. Continuing on with introductions of our county planning department staff and county staff with Deputy Corporation Counsel Office, Malia Kekai. Aloha, Malia. She's an attorney for the Planning Commission. Deputy Corporation Counsel, Jean Campbell, attorney for the Planning Department. We have the Deputy Planning Director, Jeff Darrow.
Aloha.
Aloha. Mr. Darrow will be sitting in for Director Kern for this meeting today. We have Planning Program Manager, Maya Jackson. Planner, Christian Kay. Christian. Planner, Tracy Lee Camaro. And Commission Secretary, Noriko Sauer. Mahalo, Noriko. First up is the approval of minutes. The minutes from the January 20th, 2022 meeting have been circulated. Are there any corrections? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve as submitted?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Mahalo. Motion by Commissioner Paishan-Duarte, second by Commissioner DeFranco. All those in favor? Show of hands. Aye. Okay. 4-0. Now moving on to statements from the public on agenda items. Have there been any members of the public who have registered to testify on the agenda items today?
Chair, we have no one signed up to testify.
Okay, we've got nobody signed up to testify. With that, can we seek a motion to close public testimony?
Motion to close.
Motion by Commissioner Kanuha,
Second,
second by Commissioner Paishon Duarte. All those in favor? Show of hands. Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Public testimony will be considered closed. First official order of business is unfinished business. The applicant is Dwayne Carvalho. REZ 21-000248. Application is for a change of zone from agricultural 20 acres, Ag 20A, to a village commercial 7,500 square feet, CV 7.5 zoning for approximately 7,544 square feet of land. The subject property is located at 55-479 Ho'ea Road at the northeast corner of Ho'ea Road and Akonipule Highway. Intersection the Ahupua'a Ka'auhu'uhu, North Kohala, Hawaii TMK 5-5-009-019. This is a continued hearing. The initial hearing on December 16th, 2021, the commission voted to defer its decision in order to give the applicant and the community the opportunity to submit to revise their plans. The commission has received a revised preliminary site plan and supplemental information from the applicant through his consultant by letter dated February 7th, 2022. Is there any updates that you would give, Tracy, on this agenda item?
Sorry, not at this moment. I do have the updated site plan in my presentation if you guys want me to put it up on the screen and if Darren would like to kind of discuss it further.
Okay. Applicant's consultant and consultant, please raise your hand so I can swear you in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter now before the Leeward Planning Commission?
I do.
Please state your name and the town that you live in.
My name is Darren Arai. I reside in Hilo. I'm assisting the applicant Dwayne Carvalho with this change of zone application. Dwayne is sitting next to me. He resides in North Kohala.
Would you like to give us any further information?
Sure. I'll try to be brief. Everything we tried to address the commissioner's concerns as well as those concerns expressed by the community, and that was outlined in our February 7th letter to you. The applicant does appreciate the commission's time and thoughtful approach to Mr. Carvalho's request. He takes the concerns very seriously, the concerns from the commission as well as those from the community. And in doing so, he tried to reach out to the community members who had those concerns in the hopes of finding a mutual acceptable solutions. He also tried to be proactive to the various concerns that were expressed as shown in our February 7th letter, as well as the revised site plan that was presented. I should note that the site plan was prepared by an engineer, so it does have the proper consideration for things like turning movements, backup aisle space. They even recommended a 5-foot buffer from the encroaching structure next door. So a lot of thought was put behind in coming up with the revised site plan. The revised site plan would also show additional landscaping opportunities that may be required by the planning department, even though not specifically required by Rule 17. The removal of the porta potties that were of concern to community members, as well as a 10-foot future road widening that was recommended by the planning department in its recommendation report. We also provided an analysis, a feasibility analysis, so to speak, in the hopes of demonstrating the many constraints that applies to this particular property, and to hopefully counter some of the misinformation that has been expressed by some in the community about potential uses that could occur on the property. In the end, the applicant continues that this request for a CV 7.5 zoning is proper for this particular property as an extension of existing commercial zone lands right next door. And that the proposed food truck operation in particular, and as revised by the applicant, is a reasonable use of land in this particular area of North Kohala. So, we stand ready to answer any additional questions that you may have of us. But we hope that we really address the many points that were raised in the prior meeting.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions for the applicant or county department? Vice Chair DeFranco.
I think I can, this isn't a question, I'm trying to get on my computer, but if she'll let me in, I think I'll be on my computer. I'd like to get off my phone. So can she let me in again? I should be in the waiting room.
Commissioner DeFranco, I don't see that you're in the waiting room.
Okay,
I don't have you in the waiting room.
okay.
Can you try to click the link again?
It says I'm on the link. It says, okay, let me try it again. Join meeting. Okay, so maybe. Saying enter an ID. I'm sorry to interrupt the meeting and do this. It's just so hard to. Okay, I'll go back. Maybe I should get off and then go back on. We can do it when we have a break. I'll just stay on my phone, and when we have a break, then I'll do this.
We can take a 5-minute recess for you to try to get on the.
Oh, I just saw
You see me?
you.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, I just let you
doing
in.
something. So then I'll just, there we are.
This meeting is being recorded.
Great. There you are.
Okay, let me get off.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Great.
Okay. I guess we'll come back to order. Okay, terrific. Commissioner Paishandwar, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Arai, for providing the additional information. Just one, I guess it's 1.5 questions. My question is, you mentioned that you attempted to talk with various community members, in response to our last conversation at our last meeting, commission meeting. My question is, were you able to have a conversation with any of the North Kohala Action Committee members that have been working on the North Kohala Community Development Plan? And if so, what was the result of those conversations? And then part and parcel to the first question is, have you looked at the existing North Kohala CDP and looked for possible alignment to that plan? And if so, how is your proposal in alignment with the North Kohala CDP? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Duarte Price. I didn't speak to any specific members of the action committee, and I'm not sure if Mr. Carvalho actually encountered or had discussions with any of the members. So that's answering one part of your question. The other part is that in the application that we presented, it did include a discussion about the compliance or consistency with the North Kohala CDP, and that should be part of the background report that we presented, or that the department has presented to you as well. So I've read through the Kohala CDP. I've looked at the land use guide plan, map. I do find those alignments. I do not see anything in particular that speaks directly for this property being an inappropriate use for commercial type of activities. I just couldn't find any statement specific within the CDP. I'm not aware of any, and if you are, I would really appreciate if you could let me know. That would be helpful.
Any further questions, commissioners? Commissioner Kohala?
I have a question for the applicant. Just looking at it, I'm looking at the paperwork right now. I see you guys, I like the site plan that you guys did, how you guys left in, for the future roadway widening that's there. Are you guys going to have restroom facilities on this property at all? Any type of wastewater treatment?
Are required to have that.
Maybe I can clarify. That's the very reason why porta potty was being contemplated. But because of the concerns, we elected to remove them. We did check with the Department of Health to determine if it was a requirement, and the Department of Health confirmed that it is not required because none of the food establishments contemplated serves liquor. Once you serve liquor, you must have a restroom facility.
Yeah,
and I can totally understand why. But as far as right now, no, because of the community's concerns, no wastewater facilities are being provided.
Okay, so it's going to be more of a grab and go type of food truck.
Yeah, that is exactly why the tables and the chairs were being removed.
Yeah, I'm looking at your site plan now.
Yeah, so we really, based on the traffic concerns, the ability to turn around parking within the facility as quick as possible and not have people lingering on the property. Those are some of the things that we really try to present in the hopes of saying, it is a responsive or responsible type of response by the applicant to address the many concerns.
And we appreciate that. We appreciate that. That was my only questions for you guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, any further questions? Commissioner Paishandwar?
Thank you. Sorry. So I wanted to address this question to the applicant. So if you have not had conversations, you said that you attempted to have further conversations with community and it was not with the action committee. Might you share who you had conversations with within the community?
Oh, no, I haven't had any conversations with North Kohala Resource Center after this meeting.
If I could clarify, when we first received concerns expressed in writing from the North Kohala Community Resource Center, we did reach out to them specifically and made arrangements through their president to have a meeting. We also understood at the time that one of the adjoining neighbor, Mr. Fukada, would also be in attendance. And Mr. Fukada not only owns the property immediately adjacent to the project site, but he's also the owner of that structure that encroaches onto Mr. Carvalho's property, as well as he leases, my understanding, leases use of the building to the North Kohala Resource Center. So we thought there was going to be this really great dialogue where we really could try to, find ways to, find common ground. But it was, in the end, it was pretty much just one-sided. It was just us presenting the proposal. There was very little, if any, feedback on how we can be constructive in addressing the concerns. And the last we heard, and Mr. Fukada was not in attendance, disappointingly. And they said they would go back to their board members, discuss it, and get back to us with their decision. And nothing ever happened. So that was the extent of reach out. And as letters came in, we did, like the Kohala family, for example, we did try to reach out, and you have copies of that dialogue. Again, maybe not necessarily going to the community and talking to a whole bunch of people, but as we became aware of those concerns, we definitely tried to reach out as best as we could. I'm sorry, did I address your question? Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioners, if there are no further questions, can we have a motion? Commissioner DeFranco?
Yeah, I'd like to make a favorable recommendation to forward the county council on the applicant's proposed change of zone, docket number 21-000248, based on the planning director's recommendations, which shall be adopted.
Okay. A motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion on the table to forward a favorable recommendation to the county council. It's been seconded. And we can open it up for discussion amongst the commissioners. Commissioner DeFranco, Vice Chair DeFranco.
Yeah, I thought it was good that you went back and you re-looked at everything and you came back to us with a new proposal. And it seemed that you addressed some of the questions that were raised before. One was the porta potties, the parking, the roadside, the expansion of the road. I think you guys have done that. I can see it's a very sort of funny little triangular piece of land that you're trying to do something with. I also did call the health department and tried to understand what is required to have a porta potty or not a porta potty and all of those things. And it is a bit confusing still when you talk to all of them about how it is all determined. But I'm sorry that Faye isn't here today to be here, because she actually represents your area, and that gives us, the ability to understand a little more what's happening in the neighborhood. And I'm a little disappointed that you didn't talk to any of the CDP members about this project, but I see that you're trying to go forward and do something, and you've met us, and I'm just open to what the other commissioners are thinking, so we can discuss it now.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you for your thoughts. I am not in favor of the proposal, and the reason is I think I've been spending quite a bit of time in Kohala the past couple of months for other reasons. And folks have been, the common thread of conversation is the desire to keep agricultural lands in agriculture, and the desire to create more opportunities for sustainable food systems. And so I think there's more. I think the reason why I'm not in favor is because I think more time might be helpful to the applicant to do another round of reach out to community members. I fear if this piece is not addressed, that it will cause unnecessary conflict and tension in the resident community. That's what I'd like to just offer for the conversation at hand. Thank you.
Mahalo Mahina. Thank you for that input. I sit on both sides. My family's from Niuli'i. I have my property there. I was born and raised there. I've spoke with different community members up there in Kohala as well, and there is mixed reviews about what's going on. That small area, kind of going back to food sustainability, is such a small piece of the puzzle there that if you look at the Kohala town, and and I did some research, about Mr. Carvalho and their whole ohana and everything that's been up, what he's done. And everybody it's a small community, so everybody's going to have concerns on what's going on. To me, if you look in town, there's not a lot of local operators that have something to provide. Food wise, there's not a lot of options. There's been kind of the same stuff that's been there in Kohala for a long time, and there's been other operators that have moved here and then gone into a commercial space and opened up. So I would say I'm 50-50. I like when they came back with what they had in the presented plan, just because it does give an option for, a local vendor to be able to sustain themselves on that small property. Food sustainability is huge for us in our community. I'm very, very, I'm active in that. We have a lot of family and friends that are right above Neoli, and you know them as well, that are farming as of right now, that are doing a lot to sustain our community. Walalai, he's been very vocal, and he's ohana, and he's a brother of mine. So I wouldn't, I know talking with the community members and reaching out, and I don't know how much these guys can actually keep reaching out. It sounds like they have tried. I would give the opportunity, like I said, a favorable recommendation is coming from me, just to see. I like seeing locals succeed, and that's something that I've always been, a part of and wanted to move forward. And this small piece of property, I think with some stipulations on there, especially if they can have it and do something good for the community. But like you said, I think opening up the conversation to the local members and just having just having a conversation with everybody is greatly needed for this project. Like I said, it's a small community and small town, so everybody's gonna want to know what's going on, and moving forward. I like I said, the food option is always good. Growing up in Kohala and I was born and raised up there in Neoli. We've had our property that came from my great grandfather that's been in Neoli. So it's nice to see other options, and nice to see locals going there and also not trying to build a condo or build a house or build some sort of rental attraction. But where I stand is, I give that favorable approval just on those contexts, I guess you could say. Just seeing how small that piece of property is. If it was a big piece of property, it was ag land and vital ag land, I could see why we would use it and save it for, food production. But it's on the corner of the highway, so that's my only concern. Is that I'm not sure how viable it would be, and even creating something with that food truck to be a farmer's market, maybe allowing locals to be a part of that, to create something. And that's maybe the conversation and dialogue that Mr. Carvalho needs to take up with the community, as moving forward with this food truck adventure. And then those are just my thoughts.
Mahalo, Commissioner Kohala. Yeah, for me, I look at this as a change of zone application, not just the site plans for a food truck, because once the zoning is changed, that opens it up to other possible uses. And the question is, to me, what's the most appropriate zoning for this parcel? And I don't think that's Ag 20 for a 7,500 square foot piece of property that cannot ever be 20 acres and cannot do agriculture at that level. You look at the surrounding zoning, and the surrounding zoning is comparable to what's being proposed here. basically on the map, it looks like this is the corner of a rectangle that was somehow excluded from the other parcel and excluded from that zoning for really an unknown reason. We don't know how this strange little 7,500 square foot parcel came to be and why it's zoned Ag 20 when its neighbor has commercial zoning. I agree with the planning department's recommendation for the zoning of this parcel. And I think that the particulars on the use of it can be worked out between the applicant and the community. You know, when they've got the zoning that they need to do the commercial activity. I think that Mr. Carvalho is a member of Kohala community and that he can work with his neighbors to operate his business in a way that doesn't impact on the community. I think people who are from the community, like Mr. Carvalho, who want to maintain the importance of the place that they're from, will have that respect for their community members and those around them. So I would support the favorable recommendation, and I think that the opportunity still exists for community involvement to refine the process through both the actual hearings at the county council, because we're not issuing the change of zone here. We're just issuing a recommendation to the county council. So that opportunity still exists for continued collaboration. And then, as I said, once if the zoning is granted, then it doesn't end Mr. Carvalho's efforts to collaborate with the community to have a low impact business. So I would be in favor of it. I'll note that with only 4 members present, we would need all 4 planning commissioners to vote in favor of this to send a favorable recommendation. If not, it would go forward as an unfavorable recommendation to the county council, but that would be something that the council would have to consider in their independent review of this application. I'll ask Commissioner Paishan-Duart, is there anything that you've heard that would change your perspective, or are you staying fast with your original presented belief?
I appreciate and respect the perspectives that have been shared, and they're all valid perspectives. However, I think I do believe that the applicant would benefit from more time to do another round of community outreach and conversation. So I will stand on my current perspective.
Okay, Commissioner DeFranco.
Sorry, so then to do another round would mean we would have to withdraw the motion. Is that right? And then have him go back and do more community work, or would you allow it to go forward to the council with the commitment and understanding that he would go back to his community and work with them? I mean, we're not making a decision here. We're just making a recommendation. He still has a lot of opportunity to work with the community and to fulfill. Because, you know, my feeling is that he listened to us last time and he went and redid his plans because of our recommendation. And, you know, he is making an effort to do something unique on a very funny little piece. And even though all of us are, you know, take serious note, this is an ag zoning, and why this small piece got there and everybody else around is commercial is, you know, something for us to look at. I don't know, is there any words Commissioner Duarte, that would, or things that we could tag on to this that would let this go forward?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Perhaps I can ask support and advice from staff members, from the planning staff members. If there is do you have proposed language whereby there would be a requirement that would go forth, that would carry over to do another round of community outreach and conversation? Is that possible?
Typically, when we forward a letter up to council, we forward what the vote was. So if the vote was 4-0 for a favorable recommendation, that's what the council would see. We could put something in the letter saying that the commission has requested that the applicant do another round of collaboration and consultation with the community. But there's nothing really hooking the applicant into doing that I'm aware of.
Yeah, but
Deputy
Director
Darrow, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Kohala. I just wanted to offer this suggestion. We only have 4 commissioners today. It doesn't look like we're going to get, or we may not get a vote one way or another. It hasn't been voted on at this time. If the applicant is amenable to defer this application to allow more time to speak with members of the community that Commissioner Paishan Duarte is asking for that communication to be done before feeling comfortable making a decision. The planning director or the planning department is amenable to defer. And we can, there can be a request from the commission specifically as to what type of reach out there should be before they come back. Then from that point, we would be able to consider it again, and there would be also the possibility of having a good chance of having additional commissioners on the commission as well. So that's a thought that can be considered.
So my understanding is that because this was deferred by the Planning Commission the last time, the obligation to notify the interested parties falls to the Planning Department.
That's correct.
Okay, so
Again, the applicant can request a deferral as well. So,
well, I'm just talking about the last
Sure.
round. When we were we able to notify the interested parties about the date of today's hearing
Yes,
meeting?
yes.
Was there any indication from them about whether their concerns had been resolved? Is it just given the fact that there was so much public testimony last meeting, and then there's been some pretty substantial changes to the project, and now there's no public testimony at this meeting? So do we have any indication whether maybe they liked the changes and that's why they're not here today? We didn't get any letters. We didn't get any.
Tracy, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, so up until today, we haven't received any notifications from any of the surrounding property owners or any of the neighbors within the area of the proposed changes zone.
You haven't heard from anybody?
I haven't gotten a phone call, I haven't gotten an email or any letter of testimony.
How was our notification done? How do we notify them?
I gave our secretary what we do is we typically give them the list of the surrounding property owners, and then if I'm not mistaken, Noriko sent out the agenda item. She sends out the agenda packet to all of the list of property owners.
So it just went out generically to the list of the surrounding property owners? Do we reconnect with the who testified last time and let them know of the date of the new hearing?
No, I didn't reconnect with them.
Okay. And then procedurally, even if this goes to the planning, to the planning committee of the county council with a unfavorable recommendation, the county council can do whatever they want with it. They can say that they support it or don't support it. So we're just making a recommendation. So we're definitely not the final say. Can I ask the applicant if you would have a preference on our treatment of this? Would you like to have us make a vote on this today and forward it on to the council, or would you prefer more time to consult?
As far as our preference would be to continue the meeting, because you may have seen me raising my hand when Commissioner Dorothy was first beginning to speak, and Commissioner DeFranco. One of the first things they said before they started to express their position was the need to reach out to the CDP Action Committee, or at least reach out to more members in the community. And the applicant is willing to find those pathways in order to have that further discussion. Something to consider is that, we may want to find a way where we can actually have an actual meeting before the Action Committee during one of its formal meetings and do a presentation there. And for the staff's consideration and the director's consideration as well, there have been conditions that we have suggested, or we've been thinking about. We're doing the plan approval review process, which is where should the change of zone be approved, it does allow the possibility for a range of uses and facilities, that there's this process called plan approval review, and we would be willing or amenable to a condition that says that anything submitted for plan approval review, that opportunity for a review by the Action Committee can be factored into that process as well. And that would give, again, another opportunity for the Action Committee to weigh in on any specific changes. So again, continuing the meeting to a future meeting date would give us that opportunity to explore it further with the planning department as well.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Director Darrell.
Thank you, Chairman Patusik. I just wanted to, I was going to try to chime in on this earlier, but I didn't get an opportunity. So before we finish, I just wanted to touch on a few areas that we were discussing. Number one, Commissioner Kohala brought up the fact that this is a very strange zoning for this particular property, Ag 20 on a 7,500 square foot lot in the middle of the urban core of Javi, with the zoning being state land use urban. So it's very unusual. I did take a look back at the original zone map that created the parcel, created the zoning that was initially done in 1967. And it identifies the zoning of the properties along Javi Road to the east as commercial, and the ones beyond Hoya Road to the west, it identifies as residential. But this particular property does not identify a particular zone. I'm not sure if they just said because it wasn't identified that they just went with Ag 20, but I think that's something that we should at least look at. But regardless of that, the other issues that came up with it was the consistency of the CDP. The CDP, it's not very specific. There are CDPs that actually have maps of particular areas within the district that show what the community wanted for their future land use pattern. In this particular one, they rely on the general plan land use pattern, but they do make a statement that the development of a commercial core within the towns of Hawi and Kapa'au shall be encouraged. And that's specifically where this is located, within that core of Hawi. And we see that by the commercial zoning that's moving along Hawi, the main Hawi road. The other thing that comes up is when we look at commercial or agriculture, a lot of times the planning department relies on several resources to be able to provide us what sort of quality is that agricultural land. In this particular case, we look to the Land Study Bureau that identifies what type of land that soil is, if it's good soil or poor soil. And we also look at what's called the ALISH, the agricultural lands in the state of Hawaii. In this particular case, there are areas around the island where, because there was existing urban development, they do not identify it in those maps. They just call it out as U, which is identified as is existing urban development. In this particular case, this core is identified as U. It's not identified with a soil class. And so I thought I'd bring that up as well, that this was part of that existing urban development area and not considered as lands of importance for agriculture. Anyway, it's just areas that I thought might bring some clarity to what we were discussing. Thank you.
Okay. I agree with Deputy Director Darrow. To me, it does seem like this parcel was intended to have an urban use, judging from its size and location within Kohala's urban corridor. And I think that the proposal that we're looking at for food trucks, that's a pretty limited use of an area, and not a permanent impact. But again, we're not necessarily looking at the project, we're looking at the zoning. So if nothing changes, I suppose the option on the table would be for us to withdraw the motion on the floor and then propose a new motion to defer this to allow consultation with the South Kohala Community Development Plan Action Committee. I'll leave that up to the motion maker.
I guess I'm the motion maker, but looking at all of these, I'm just trying to get us to give a favorable recommendation with the caveat of when if we can all agree to recommend it to go forward, with the caveat that a continued level of outreach would be appreciated. I'm not really sure. Anyway, but so this is a question to Commissioner Duarte, if she's considering, if she would consider something here. If not, then I will withdraw the motion.
Perhaps if Commissioner Paishan Duarte, the possibility that Mr. Arai suggested of including a condition wherein plan approval on the property would have to go through the action committee. That's a pretty direct community involvement. That's a condition that would tie anything that they do on the property to some pretty high level scrutiny from the action committee about whether it's going to have an impact on Kohala. I think we're fairly in agreement about the zoning being appropriate, and there's still some concerns about the project, and this would really allow them to develop that project in real high level consultation with the action committee. So if we were to include a condition where plan approval would be required to have a consultation with the action committee, is that something that you'd be in favor of?
Yeah, thank you, Chair and Vice Chair, for your suggestions and helping us move through this conversation. My understanding is that when Ms. Jackson had shared that we could approve and make a recommendation for approval to the council. However, it would be a suggestion. I did not hear that we could tie it to an actual condition. I might be misunderstanding. So someone from the staff, can you please clarify if that is indeed tying the condition of consultation, I don't know exactly what the term is, with the action committee members of the North Kohala CDP? Please help me understand.
Yeah, so the commission can always add conditions to the draft ordinance to do some type of action further down the line. So my response to you, Commissioner Paishon Duarte, was it sounded like you wanted some kind of consultation to occur between Planning Commission and before it got to County Council. So that's why I was suggesting that there's no method to do that other than just asking them to do that. But you can always add a condition to the draft ordinance, and then the condition would be implemented further down. So as Mr. Arai had suggested, if you condition a trigger at plan approval to where they're required to do some type of consultation with the action committee, that could just be added as a condition to the ordinance. So let me look at the draft conditions and show you where that might be appropriate to add that language. Just give me one moment here. Okay. So if you look at condition C of the draft ordinance, we have our standard construction shall be completed within 5 years. Prior to construction, the applicant shall secure final plan approval for the proposed development. And that's where you can add in a statement that says that the plans submitted for final plan approval shall be reviewed by the North Kohala CDP Action Committee prior to the planning director issuing approval, or some language like that.
Thank you. And follow-up question. So in that language, shall review by X party. Help me walk through the steps. So if they then the action committee then, after, as a scenario, does not support the application, what then happens? What are the next steps?
I don't know that there would be a way to prevent the use from being established on the property because it's a permitted use based on the zoning. So I don't think that the consultation input from the action committee could be a, if we don't like it, it's not approved type of decision. It would be more of a consultation of, we feel like you don't have enough parking spaces, or we don't like the design of the building or where you're placing the proposed food truck, something to that extent. More design related considerations rather than whether the use is approved or denied.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just want to, Chair, may I offer some of my thoughts to the applicant? Is that okay? Thank you. So I'm not trying to be stubborn about this at all. However, with all of the comments and advice and further information that's been shared, particularly by Deputy Darrow, with that in mind, applying that logic, if you have all of the pieces in place with the correct, with the information, I would think that the action committee would then, once consulted again with all the information that all of you have presented, I would think that they would be in favor. So I don't think this hurts your application. It will take more time. However, given all this conversation, I just want to be upfront. I still will stand on not, I am not in favor of the application at this point.
Okay, with that, Commissioner DeFranco.
Right, with that, thank you, Commissioner Dewar. So I am going to make a motion to defer or withdraw the
Withdraw
present motion.
first.
So I withdraw my present motion for a favorable recommendation.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Paishan-Dewar, would you like to make the motion? To defer?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to defer on this application. Did I
Would
say
you
that?
like to include the language about consultation with the action committee?
Yeah, yes. Can someone help me out with providing the correct information? I just want to say it correctly for the record.
Ms. Kekai? I can try to, oh, there you go.
We just want motion language. Is that what's going on? I mean, I think that it's clear on the record that she stated to consult with the CDP Action Committee.
Okay, is that, I mean, would you like to include additional community consultation as well as the North Kohala Community Development Plan Action Committee? Okay.
Yes.
So there's a motion on the floor to defer the application to allow additional time for consultation with the community and with the North Kohala Community Development Plan Action Committee. Is there a second? Commissioner DeFranco. Discussion, is there any, before I go further, I guess, the applicant has already stated somewhat that their willingness to extend our statutory time periods to allow for this. Is that, did you say on the record that you're okay with that?
Yes, we are. Thank you very much.
Okay, okay. So the applicant has agreed to extend our statutory time period for review. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Paishan-Dewar,
Aye.
Vice Chair DeFranco,
Aye.
Commissioner Konuha,
Aye.
Chair Vitusek.
Aye.
The motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Yates excused. Thank you.
Mahalo, you will be notified of the commission's decision in writing. Maya?
Yes, Chair. So the department will go ahead and do that notification to surrounding property owners. And I just wanted to ask, Chair, do you want us to also notify everybody who provided testimony up to this point?
I would appreciate that, definitely.
Yes, yes, please.
Okay, thank you. We will do that.
Yep.
Thank you all for your very thoughtful consideration always. Much appreciated.
Aloha. Mahalo.
Aloha. Take care.
Okay, moving into agenda item number 2. Oh, before we do that, does anybody like to take a break?
Can we take a 5-minute recess, Lua break?
Yes, 5-minute recess. We will be back at, we'll call it 10:40. Okay, thank you, everybody. Aloha, we ready to come back? Okay. Terrific. Wait for Maya to come back on. There she is. And then Deputy Director Darrow, there he is. Got everybody. Moving on to item number 2, new business. Applicant is Dale Herbert Treves. Said that right? PL-REZ-2021-000013. Application for a change of zone for an agricultural 1 acre, Ag 1A zoning district to a single family residential, 15,000 square foot zoning district, RS 15, for 33,738 square feet of land. The subject property is located at 65-1310 Lihipali Road, approximately 170 feet northeast of this intersection with Opello Road, portion of Waimea Homesteads, South Kohala, Hawaii TMK 65007-045 with CPR units 001 and 0002. Sorry, 0001 and 0002. Staff presentation will be by Christian K. Christian, please proceed.
Yes, aloha and good morning, members of Leeward Planning Commission, to the applicants and everyone else here watching. Again, give me just a minute, I'll share my screen. All right, can everyone see that? All right, perfect. Again, as the chair stated, this is an application for a change of zone. The subject 33,738 square foot property of land is located in the South Kohala district of Hawaii Island, more specifically in the Waimea area. For reference, we've got Lindsay Road running generally this direction through the slide, and Lihipali Road is off of Opello Road here, and the subject property is outlined here in red. The applicant is requesting a change of zone from an agricultural 1 acre zoning district to a single family residential 15,000 square feet zoning district for 33,738 square feet of land. The property currently has 2 condominium property regime units, CPR 1 and CPR 2, with 1 single family residence on each lot. The purpose of this request is to subdivide the property into 2 lots of roughly 18,237 square feet and 15,501 square feet, consistent with the land area of each of the existing CPR units, but free from those CPR restrictions. The applicant intends to file a subdivision application immediately after approval of the rezone request and anticipates having the property subdivided by the end of 2022. The applicant estimates that the cost of the project will be minimal, as access and utilities to the property have been long established for 2 dwellings on the property. The county zoning of the subject property and much of the surrounding area is agricultural 1 acre, as indicated in the light green. Mauka, or this side of Lihipali Road, is a state lot, and this agricultural 400 acres. Other zoning in the area are single family residential zonings, 7,500 square feet, similar 15,000 square feet and 20,000 square feet, as indicated with these other colors. The state land use boundary designation of the subject property and much of the area Makai of the property is urban, as indicated by the pink color. So because it's already urban, there was no requirement for an associated state land use boundary amendment for this rezone request. And then to the top of the across Lihipali Road is agricultural. The general plan land use pattern allocation guide map designates the subject property as low density urban, which could support up to 6 dwelling units per acre. So it would be consistent with the proposed RS 15 zoning designation. Here's the South Kohala Community Development Plan map. A little difficult to see, but the project site is right about here in an area designated as existing urban development. So there are no special requirements or designations that the subject property falls within. Here is the applicant's proposed site plan. For reference, we've got Leahy Polly Road, generally running up and down on the slide here. Again, the existing property has two dwellings that have already been built on the property. The first dwelling here on CPR Unit 1 was built in 1963. The second dwelling unit here on CPR Unit 2 was built in 1988. So each of the dwellings has their own driveway access off of Leahy Polly Road. Here's an aerial photograph of the subject property and some of the surrounding area. Again, we've got Opelu Road running here on the left side of the slide and Leahy Polly Road running here toward the top. Again, the subject property is outlined in red, showing the existing dwellings on the property and existing driveway facilities. There are similar residential type uses in the area, and then across Leahy Polly Road is the agricultural lot, the state's agricultural lot. Here's some views of the subject property looking in the Mackay direction. Again, we've got the two dwellings shown here on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, the dwelling on CPR Unit 2. And here's a view of Leahy Polly Road looking westward with the subject property on the left-hand side, and a view of Leahy Polly Road looking eastward with the subject property on the right-hand side. This photo shows that there are several drainage facilities that were built by the county within Leahy Polly Road right-of-way. And so there was some testimony about drainage facilities, and this just gives you an idea of what those look like. They're essentially dry wells along Leahy Polly Road. So the deputy director is recommending that the commission forward a favorable recommendation to the county council. And with that, I'm happy to end the presentation and happy to answer questions when it comes my time. Thank you.
Mahalo, Christian, and just want to say that pictures were taken on a beautiful day.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, we can continue on with the applicant's presentation. Please raise your right hand so I can swear you in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter now before the Leeward Planning Commission?
You too, Dale. Yes, I do.
I do.
Okay. Mahalo.
Shall we proceed?
For the record, would you please state your name, go around and state your names and the towns that you live in?
Aloha, John Pippin, Land Planning Hawaii, representing the applicant on this matter. I live just outside of Kohala. Dale, you're muted, but go ahead and please introduce yourself.
Aloha, my name is Dale Treffs. You did a good job of pronouncing it. And happy to say I live in Waimea.
Hi, I'm Yin Ling Lian, and call me Yin, and I live in Waimea.
Very good.
Have you received the background recommendation reports from the planning department?
We have. I reviewed the reports and conditions with all parties earlier this week, and we're in agreement. We understand and agree to those conditions.
Okay, terrific. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Aloha, Chair Vatuzik, Planning Commissioners. Thank you much for your continued service to our island and your communities and your dedication to this important process we're going through. Thanks so much to Planning Department staff. Excellent presentation. Thanks also to Deputy Director Darrow for the favorable recommendation. I'll just touch on the brief history of these properties. Mr. K covered them in his presentation briefly too. The lot, 33,000 square feet, created by subdivision early in the 1960s prior to the zoning being established for this area. So in that sense, the lot size is not conforming already to the Ag 1 designation, being less than 1 acre. Soon thereafter, the first home on the current lot, CPR Lot 1, was built. Later on in the 80s, the second home was built as an Ohana, and then shortly thereafter, the CPR was established to separate ownership interests in those two homes on the property. So since then, these properties have been managed independently. However, there are those strings tying the two together legally through the CPR itself. So the requested rezone for several reasons would help to clarify this, to separate the ownership interest, to make the management of the parcels more convenient, more safe for both parties. They'll speak more to that here in a moment. We feel like this application is fairly straightforward, bringing in line the zoning with the use, and the use is consistent with the surrounding properties. We did receive one item of testimony from the public with concerns. We followed up with Mr. Jensen by mail and by email. To date, he hasn't responded to any of our offers for further discussion, but his concerns revolved around drainage, around increasing density. So there's no development proposed with this rezone. Things are going to stay like they are. It's just turning a CPR lot line into a TMK property boundary. So in that sense, the concerns related to increasing density or increasing traffic, increasing runoff are pretty unfounded. He did point out that applicant Mr. Treffs operates a rental out of his home, which is currently not regulated by the county. It's not a short-term vacation rental. They live in the home full time, and they just rent one of the rooms. Never had any complaints, been doing it for about 10 years now. So they've been completely transparent with that process throughout. And should the county enact regulation of these hosted vacation rentals, obviously Mr. Treffs will comply. He's been to date keeping up with all of his transient accommodations and general excise taxes. So gets great reviews. Looks like a beautiful place, as you've seen. We'd really love to have direct conversation with Mr. Jensen and make sure everybody's comfortable with it, but it takes two to have a discussion. So I feel like we've done our part on that side. And again, we've reviewed the conditions, find them acceptable. So I'll hand the floor over to Mr. Treffs to just introduce himself briefly, and then we'll continue with Ms. Ling Long and circle back for your questions. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Appreciate has demonstrated how much care and attention you do take to these kind of matters. We moved here about 16 and a half years ago, December of 2005. And frankly, I had never heard of a condominium lot before. I was looking for the high rise or townhouse or something. But the common element that we do have is the fence. We each have our own water meter, our own electrical supply. So from our point of view, and in a moment I'll introduce you to my neighbor, and just a brief word on the neighborhood up here. This is a very special place. Lehigh Poly Road in particular. We know each other, care for each other, and we have solid relationships. When Mr. Jensen proposed with his letter that to his opposition, he indicated that he was essentially a next door neighbor, which is not true. He does not live up here. Needless to say, that's neither here nor there. So we're looking for you to making this right. We are looking at future generations, passing it on to our kids or whatever. And we'd like to put a stop to the fire truck showing up at the wrong house in the middle of the night, which has happened. Was by no fault of Yin in this case. They came in the middle of the night to our door, lights flashing and banging on the door. And by the time I got up and got out there, they said, "Oh, we were just ready to hack down the door." And we're ready to put an end to packages going to the wrong house because the delivery guy can't understand the difference between A and B. So with that, I'm going to introduce to you my dear neighbor, esteemed friend, Yin Ling Yang.
Thanks, Dale. The reason why only Dale's name is on the application is exactly why he's such a great neighbor, because we were still in Redmond, Washington when we put this applicant in. And we bought this house because my mom's aging. She's 80 years old and she lives in Hilo, where I spent my Hanabata days. And if you know Liang's Chop Suey House or some Liang's Chinese Kitchen, you would have seen me as a small kid running in and out and also scooping food by the time I got to high school. So, we've owned this house for about 16 years. Dale, around the same amount of time. We probably moved in together around the same time. And I think we bought these houses I was able to buy it because there was a little bit of a discount for being a CPR. I think a lot of buyers are kind of like confused and worried that it's kind of like leasehold land or something, and then they walk away, right? So we were stubborn, and of course the views and Waimea is so special that we had to have it, even if there was this confusing thing. So I think this division will just make it easier. So when it's time for me to move to an old folks home or in with my kids and I have to sell the house, or if I pass it on to my kids, I don't want that kind of confusion to be there. That's just it. And I think Dale already addressed the other two reasons. We're always like taking our little packages and mail back and forth. And then also that fire truck, when we had a fire alarm here, it like automatically called the fire department and it showed up but also like just in case like an ambulance were to show up or something, we would that would just be really sad if it went to the wrong house. Dale and Patsy, my neighbors, are very humble. So I'm just going to brag a little about them because it's why, having this rezoning will be helpful. It helps them stay. I know, like my mom, any little income. So like having that little Airbnb downstairs or a VRBO is really important to just kind of like making ends come together when you live in Hawaii, right? And so it's never been a problem for me. I live right next door to it, so I would know. And also, Patsy is the care coordinator. So all the home care stuff that goes on in North Hawaii, Patsy's like the head person. That's why she can't be on this call. She's working really hard to make sure all our kapuna are taken care of, right? So, I just also want to express thanks to the commission, because I used to do nonprofit environmental justice work. And, the planning commission is where the rubber hits the road on what land use happens and how we protect the land and the people, And so I think it's really great that you spend all this volunteer time listening to us and going through all these applications. And so we appreciate, the magnitude of what you're trying to do. So mahalo, and I hope you approve our very simple ask to change, the zoning so we can have the 2 separate TMKs.
Thanks, Yen. I just also wanted to point out before we wrap up our presentation that we did receive a letter of support from a direct adjacent neighbor to the west, the Lamb family, and that is in the background report in the record. So with that, we'll conclude, we'll wrap up, we'll take any questions you might have, but we would greatly appreciate your consideration of the favorable recommendation passed on to the county council. Thanks.
Mahalo. Okay, before we get into any more discussion, I would just love it if the county planning department would give a little tiny background on what a CPR is for some of the commissioners, and on what the restrictions are in terms of what's needed if, let's say, Mr. Treffs wants to apply for a building permit. Does he then need to get approval from the applicant, just so that the planning commission can understand the nature of what a CPR is versus 2 separate fee simple lots?
I can touch upon that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. CPR is referred to as a condominium property regime. It's a type of avenue that people use mainly for ownership. We'll see a lot of that in apartments and hotels, mainly apartments, where you have one property, one tax map key, but multiple owners because they all own a unit as part of that particular property. When you look at the real property tax records, you'll see an additional set of numbers attached to that particular property, 0001, 0002, but it's all the same primary tax map key. What happened was, prior to the planning department changing our rules and our subdivision code, CPRs were able to be done within the agricultural zoning to in a sense, circumvent our subdivision process. And it created all kinds of problems for us, because when we were looking at, farm dwellings and ownership and signatures of authorization, oh my gosh, it was quite a headache to deal with. So we had to actually create internal memos to kind of resolve that until we changed our subdivision code. So at this point, we have pretty much said that if you want to do a CPR in a particular zoning, you need to meet the standards of a subdivision. So if you're in the agricultural zoning and you want to do a CPR on a 5-acre lot that's zoned Ag 1.
Hold on.
Okay,
We just
no
lost
problem.
Mr. Kohala. There he is. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry about that. Go for it.
They can do up to 5 units because the zoning allows for, 5 lots, right? But they have to meet that now. So in this particular case, we have one of those remnant CPRs that happened. The approval isn't with the planning department. It's with the real estate commission, where they submit an application and they get approval through that. What happens, the other problem that consists with the planning department as a result of these is because it's one property owned by a particular amount of owners. Not so much in an apartment complex do we run into this problem, but on agricultural land, we run into it on a consistent basis. And that is, one of the owners might be doing something that is in violation of the zoning code, yet we have multiple owners of the same TMK. And so there was a time where they were all getting drawn in to the violation because they were all part owners. But again, that's we've kind of resolved a lot of those issues at this point. I hope that clarifies that. I don't know, Maya, you might want to chime in if I missed something.
Yeah, just the last thing I would add is the same thing with an owner wanting to build a house on a CPR unit. Through department memo, we allow an individual owner to do that without getting landowner authorization from the other CPR unit owners.
Yeah, there was a time where we didn't have that guidance, and what would happen was, if your neighbor wasn't, being very neighborly, they could choose not to sign off and give authorization, which obviously isn't really fair.
But that's only in the form of an internal memo at this point and not actually codified.
Well, again, we're dealing with an issue that's actually something that was before our changes in the code that was approved through the Real Estate Commission.
Right.
We still, we have a memo that deals with the CPR units previous, but moving forward now, they pretty much have to comply with the subdivision code, which resolves a lot of problems for us.
Okay.
And again, just this is a good thing that's happening here. It's taking away the CPR and giving clear ownership and separation to these individual owners, which I'm sure they're going to be happy about too.
Thank you. And then I also add that we have Mr. Bryce Harada here from the Department of Public Works to address any concerns about the flooding that was identified in a letter of opposition. Mr. Harada, would you mind describing any impact that this application might have on flooding?
Yeah, so thank you. This particular lot is zoned in flood zone X and shaded X. So at least from our standpoint, we don't regulate the flooding on those particular flood zones. As far as the direct impact of these two particular CPRs, at least from Public Works standpoint, we don't see any. We know that the neighbor or the someone had mentioned about flooding downstream, but as far as the direct impact from this lots, Public Works doesn't see any.
Mahalo. Thank you, Mr. Harada.
Mr. Sheriff, if I can just add one thing. When we were out there taking photos on that beautiful day that you mentioned, I did have an opportunity to look down into those drainage facilities to see if there was any evidence of siltation. I was able to see all the way to the bottom. So there was they weren't filling up. There weren't issues with not being able to handle stormwater as it came down.
Okay. And I believe the maintenance of those facilities would fall well outside of the scope of this application. So, commissioners, are there any questions of the applicant or of the planning department staff? Seeing no one, anybody like to make a motion? Commissioner Kohala.
I'd like to make a motion and move that a favorable recommendation be forwarded to the county council on the applicant proposed change of zoning docket number 2021-000013 based on the deputy planning director's recommendation, which shall be adopted.
Well, is there a second?
Like the second.
Second by Commissioner Paishon Ward. Now we can open it up for discussion. Anybody? Okay, seeing none, we can move forward with the roll call vote.
Sorry, I'll do this again. Commissioner Konuha,
Aye.
Commissioner Paishon Duarte,
Aye.
Commissioner DeFranco,
Aye.
and Chair Vatusik.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Motion carries with 4 aye votes and 1 excused.
Mahalo. You will be notified of the commission's decision in writing, and good luck with the council. Aloha.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Have a great rest of your day. Aloha.
moving forward to the planning director's report to be presented by the deputy director. Report on special management area determinations, minor permits, and enforcement actions issued by the planning director.
I'm going to use this opportunity to defer to my friend Christian K.
Terrific.
And I'm going to continue to pass that buck on to Maya Jackson, who is planning on doing that.
Thanks, guys. So the logs were sent to the commission, I believe, last week or the week before. You should have received the short form assessment log and the SMA assessment log. So I would be happy to answer any questions the commission has on the approvals the director and the department have issued over the last month.
Any questions, commissioners?
Okay.
Terrific. Moving on to agenda items for next meeting. Are there any requests from commissioners? We're all in receipt of the letter dated March 3rd, 2022 from Carl Smith Ball, representing DHL Mahi Propco as one that was requested for us to provide them. Anybody, it's not agendized today, so I don't think we should have a discussion on it now. But if anybody would like to discuss that further, or if you want to review it offline, really up to you. Commissioner DeFranco?
Well, I wouldn't mind reviewing it because I didn't quite get what it said. So I would like some clarification on it. I don't know how to do that, but.
Sure. Would you? I guess we can follow up with the county planning department staff offline and determine if that letter is good enough, and then at the next meeting we can determine whether we want it on the agenda for a future meeting or not. Does that sound all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Terrific. Terrific. Maya, would you mind following up with Vice Chair DeFranco and anybody else who's interested?
Me as well, please.
Okay,
Sure,
terrific.
I can do that.
Mahalo. Okay, announcements. The Leeward Planning Commission's next monthly meeting is scheduled for Thursday, April 21st by interactive video conference via Zoom and at the West Hawaii Civic Center, Community Center, Building G conference room. So what does that mean for us? Do we get to choose?
We get to hang out pretty soon.
Wow.
Yes.
Real people?
That will be nice to see everybody in person again. So we are going to try a hybrid style meeting for our next meeting in April. And what that means is people can come and testify in person at Building G at the West Hawaii Civic Center. And we hope to eventually have commissioners that want to attend in person also join us in Building G. But we have some new equipment that we're having to test out for this new hybrid meeting. So at least for April, I'd like to ask that the commission continue to participate by Zoom. And then maybe by the May meeting, we can shift more commission and staff to participating in person if they choose to do so. Okay.
Thank you.
And then I also wanted to let you know that we have 3 items on your next agenda consisting of 2 projects. So one of the items is a rezone and an SMA amendment.
Okay. And any announcements on filling our remaining vacancies?
Yes. We have 2 candidates. They are Zaheva Knowles. She's in the South Kohala district. And we also have Michael Dela Cruz. He, I believe, is also out of the South Kohala district. He would be filling the at-large position. So those two nominations will be heard at Council Planning Committee next week.
What day and time?
They will be heard on the 22nd, I believe at 9:30 a.m. And then if they are confirmed at Planning Committee, then they'll also need one more confirmation from the full council, which I believe would occur on April 6th. So it's possible we may be able to get them on board before your next meeting.
Terrific. Okay, well, hopefully.
Yep.
Thank you. Any additional announcements?
Nope.
No, seeing none, can we have a motion to adjourn? Commissioner, Vice Chair DeFranco,
Second.
and second by Commissioner Parshan DeWart. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. We're adjourned. Time is 11:16 a.m. Mahalo, everybody.
you.
Really appreciate it.
Aloha.
Oh,
Hello.
aloha.
Everyone.
Hello, everyone. You guys have a great day.